built-in modules. Right. So there are a lot of built-in modules in Python, but we will be focusing on, okay, we'll be focusing on only few of them, which is operating system. Okay. Time, where does it go? Okay, which is operating system, right? Which is nothing but the OS module. Sys module. So anything that you want to deal with the operating system, such as creating a folders, right? Making directories, deleting a directory, getting into a directory, all of those, any of the removing a directory, delete, create, and all of those operations, you can do it via the OS module. And sys module, any Python specific operation, any Python specific operation, you can do it with the sys module. Like if you want to know what is my current Python version and stuff like that. Okay. Okay. Right. So let us start with OS. So if I have to use this OS module, what is the first thing that I have to do? If I have to use this OS module, what is the first thing that we have to do? We have to import the OS module. We have to import the OS module. So import OS, right? So once you import the OS, right, you can get all the functions that are available in the OS module into our scope, and we can start using it. So let us go and create. I'm going to create a new package called built-in modules. Okay, what did I say? The first thing is we have to do import OS, and let me just print what is OS, right? And let us run this OS module, right? As you can see, it is printing module OS from whatever your Python installation. So module meaning what? What did we say? Module meaning it's a file, Python in any file with a .py extension, right? So this is also a built-in module where when you install Python, you will get this module for free. So right, we can start using this module. Okay, are we clear? Right.
Clear, sir.
Right. With the
Clear,
OS
sir.
module, I want to know what is my current folder. What is my current path? Print os dot get cwd, meaning get current working directory. Current working directory, right? So which means it will give you which is your current path. So if I'm executing this path, which is Python evening class slash built-in modules slash. So this is my, and also where is this Python projects, right? So it's in users, this folder, and then PyCharm projects, Python evening class, and built-in modules. Let us see if that gives us that path, right? This is where I'm executing this file from. This is where I am executing this file from, right? Right. If you want to get the current working directory, you can use get cwd function. Get cwd function. Am I clear?
Clear, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now,
Yes,
if
sir.
I want to make a directory, if I want to make directory, make a new directory, we'll use a function called mkdir, which means make directory, and you have to give the path. Where should you create this new directory? You have to give a path. Where should you create this directory? Os dot make directory, and you have to give the path. So for example, if I can directly give the name, and this is going to create a directory within the current folder. Which is the current folder that I am in? Built-in modules.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right now, this is going to create a folder within the built-in modules called as test. Right, I'm just giving a name. It is not like a full path. If I don't give a full path, if it will take that as a current path itself as a full path, and it creates the folder. So let us run this and see if it creates. Right, did we get something called test here?
Yes, sir.
Right. So you can always create any kind of directory using a function called,
OS data MKDIR.
right. Or you can also give a path like full path. You can also give, right. So here I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to create in the evening class. Okay, I cannot copy that. Okay, right. C colon. Right, under PyCharm projects. Evening class is where I'm going to create within this path. Within this path I'm going to create, and the last would be my file path name. Right, so I'm going to create here as a created using code. Right, so which means at this level, Python evening class, at this level, I want a folder called created using code. Let us see if it creates. One moment. What is the problem? This should be working well. Okay, I have to use a escape character. I have to use a double slash here. Right, let us try to execute this. All right, so it is already created. And let us see if it is actually created or not. Let me just close this and reopen. Did we get this? Built-in modules? No, created using code. It did not create. What happened? By evening class only, right? And then, oh, this is not letting it execute. I'm going to comment this because when when it tries to os.make dir test, right? This test is already here in the built-in modules, and it is going to throw an error, right? We have already this folder, and it is not letting this to be created, right? I'm going to comment this out, right? I'm going to comment this out and then rerun it. Let us see if it gets the file created. Okay, now created using code. Did we get this directly?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Right,
sir.
so like this you can give the complete path, right? Or if you don't give the path, it will create in the current directory. Now, yes, if I want to make a directory, mkdir is a function. Now, if I have to remove a directory, right, it is rmdir. It is rmdir. os.rmdir. Okay. I'm going to delete this folder now. If you have noticed that, I'm going to comment this one out because that folder is already there. It will throw an error. Okay. os.rmdir, which means remove directory. Let us run this. What happened? Do we have test?
No, sir. Deleted.
Right? It is deleted. Yeah. So that is how you can create a directory and also remove a directory. Right. So you can always create a directory using which function?
MKDIR.
MKDIR.
mkdir, which means make directory. You can always create a directory using, remove a directory using
RMDIR.
rmdir, right? Remove the directory and create a directory using mkdir, remove directory using rmdir. To know the current path,
OS dot
Get
get
CWD.
right? Get cwd, which means get current working path. Get current working path. Okay. Now let us look at how to list the files and folders in the given path. os dot list directory, os dot list directory. This will list, this will return a list of files and folders in a given path. This will return a list of files and folders in a given path. Print files and folders. Let us run this. This test is there. Now we have to, if you make a directory, also remove a directory. That way this will run. Okay, so in this built-in modules, how many files do we have? os underscore module.py. If I don't give anything, which means it is taking the current path. It is taking the current path. If I give a path, it will give me the list of files and folders in that path. So I will take here, starting from here till Python evening class. Just going to copy this and I can give the path, right? Let me run this again, right? So under Python evening class, how many folders do we have? Built-in modules, calc, created using code, DAR, right? Do we have all of them here?
Yes, sir.
So all the folders of a given path will be listed using a function called
Listed
Listed
list
dir.
dir, which means list directory, but it's not just list the directory, but also it lists the files as well. But also it lists the files as well. Okay, are we clear?
Clear,
Clear,
sir.
Now
sir.
I want to move from one directory to another directory via the code. I want to move from one directory to another directory, which means I want to change the directory. Right. So if I want to change the directory, what is the function that we have to use? os.chdr, which means change directory. Change directory. Now, after creating the test directory, I'm going to move into the change, move into the test using the change directory, using the change directory function, right? Which is chdr. Chdr. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, after going into the CHDIR, right, after moving into the CHDIR, let us print the current working directory. Print os dot get CWD, which is get current directory, just to validate are we in the right path. Os dot change directory. So if I use double slash backward, no, which means I'm coming out one step. I'm coming back one step. I moved into the test folder and then I'm coming back to the parent folder. I'm coming back to the parent folder dot slash. Okay, again we'll check the get CWD. Okay, so first we were in this path. Okay, then we did created a test folder and then moved into the test folder, and then we did a get current working directory. You can see that again now the path says it is in the test. After that we said dot dot slash, which means come back to the parent directory, come back to the parent directory, right? It does. And after that I'm printing the built-in modules, right? If you see it does, it did come back to the parent directory. It did come back to the parent directory, right? And that is the path. Are we clear?
It's clear,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. Now OS dot change directory allows us to move from one directory to another directory, one directory to another directory, right? Make dir lets us create the directory. List dir gives the list of files and folders in a given path. List of files and folders in a given path, right? RMDIR removes the directory. RMDIR removes the directory. Are we clear? Are we clear with these functions?
Yes,
It's clear,
sir.
sir.
Okay. Okay. So let us do one thing. Right. I want to know if a given path exists or not. I want to know if a given path exists or not. Is it a valid path or not? Is it a valid path or not? As in, I will say, right, for example, listed directory, right? It is a valid path till Python evening class. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to rename like this, something like this. But technically, this is an invalid path. This is not a right path. And if I try to run this, it is going to throw an error. File not found, error. The system cannot find the path specified. It is going to throw an error. Now, yes, one way is to handle the error, right? We have seen the exception handling, fine. But the other way is to check if at all if that path present or not. If at all if that path is valid or not, you can even before executing, you can check if that path is a present or not. Okay. Now for that, what we can use is, right, we have a OS module in which you can use, right? I'm just going to, before listing the directory, print os dot path dot exists. Os dot path dot exists. This will give true or false based on whether this path is valid or invalid. Whether this path is valid or invalid. Let me recall this again. This will basically give true or false. In this case, should it return true or false?
False.
Because that's an invalid path. Yeah, right. This is giving false, right? Now what we will do, list directory only if exists, only then list the files and folders. Right, which means we are checking first, okay, does it exist or not? It doesn't exist. right? So always you can use to check whether if a file path is valid or not. You can always use os.path.exists function. Clear?
Yeah, clear, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. Now you all know how to iterate, right? How to loop over something. Now what I want is you guys to write a function, right? That will print all the files and folders in a given path. If there is a folder, you have to get into a folder, print all the files and folders. If you find another folder, again get into that folder, print the files in that path. Right? If it is a folder, you have to keep going into the folder and keep printing the values. Right? Do you understand?
So repeat once again, sir.
Okay. Right. So I'll give you certain path example. And our list dir function returns both files and folders. Right? Are we clear with this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And after this, let us say there is a folder. Okay. Right. And within that, there is folder 1, folder 2, and file 1, file 2. Okay. Under folder, how many files are there? 2 files. How many folders are there? 2. And now once you find this as a folder, right, you have to again change directory into this, right? And F1 might have folder 1 and then file 3, file 4. Now you have to print the file 3 and file 4 under folder 1. And since there is a folder 1 again, if the F1, right, this let us say it has file 5, file 6. Okay. Under again F2, there is file 7, file 8. The way that I want this output as if these are folders. Which are the folders here? This is a folder, right? This is a folder and this is a folder. Under F1, we have a one more folder and 2 files. Under folder 1, right, you have 2 files, right? So you have file, file, right? Under F2, you have file, file. Under F1, you have, right, one folder, 2 files. Under one folder that we have in F1, there are 2 files. Right? Are we clear that this is your folder structure? Okay. Now you have to write a code in such a way that it has to print output something like this. Folder, right? F1 and fold 1. Under that, file 5, file 6. Right? You can use something like this. Right? Under folder 1, you also have at the same level, you have file 4. Okay. Under same F1 level, you have another folder called F2, and within that you have file 7, file 8, and eventually you have file 1, you understood this? I want you guys to write a code to print this output, right? And the folder, you have two folders and two files. They are on the same level. It printed this, done. Under F2, there is fold 1. And we again cd'd into that, printed the respective files. Okay, there is no more. So I came back to the parent and again printed the files. There was no more folder, done. And again came back to parent, done. F1 is completed. Then it will go into F2. There are two files. Print these files. There are no more folders. Then come back to the parent. And are there any folders? No, there are only files. Print the file. Did we understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Write a code to print this output. Right? But here, what did I say? You have to go into this directory. You have to go into this directory, which means you should know first through code, is this a directory or is this a file? You should know, you should be making that decision. Okay, is this a directory or is this the file? How do you know that? Excuse me. How do you know that? Under os.path, you have two functions, right? One is file, which will give true or false based on either a file or a directory. Another function is dir. This will return true if the given path is a directory, otherwise it will return false. This will return true if the given path is a file, otherwise it will return false. Right? Are we clear with that? Right? We will check if by giving a path whether it is valid or not. Right, in the built-in modules, I have os.module.py. Right, os.e path dot is file. Is it a file or not?
File only, sir.
Right, it is a file, not a directory for sure. It is a file. Yes,
Yes, sir.
this will return true. Okay, and let me repeat the same thing. Instead of is file, I'm going to check is it that directory? Is it a directory? Right, it's not a directory. It is going to return false. Yes. Now we create RMDIR, sorry, test folder here. So first, if not exist, I'll not create. If not exist, I'll not create. If os dot path dot exists, right, which is the test folder. If not exist, only then create. Only then create. Right, RM, I'm just going to comment it out. And here, I'll check if the test is a directory or a not. Is it a directory or a file? Test. right? It is going to be a directory. That is what was test. We said mkdir. While creating itself, we said mkdir, which means it is a directory. It is a folder, right? And if I just check, is it a file? Is it a file? This is going to return false. It's not a file, but it is a directory. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. These are all the functions that we will be most frequently using. And remaining functions, there are quite a lot of other functions, but we don't be using that much of functions. But these are the like most frequently used, and we have looked at them. So the next module that we'll be going to is a sys module. What is it? Sys module. Right? OS mostly deals with all the operations that you do at a operating system level, which is creating a folder, changing the folder path, right? Deleting a folder, right? One more function, rmdir. Okay, so rmdir only removes the directory. What if I want to remove a file? Remove a file. I've just created a text file here. I want to remove this. So the function is remove. OS dot remove. Right. I'm going to give the path as test. File1.txt. If you notice here, the moment I run this, it is going to be removed. Do we have that file?
No, sir.
Right. That has been removed. That has been removed. Okay. Right. So remove directory is to remove the directory. If you want to remove a file, you have to use remove, not directory, just remove. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right. So the next module, see now in order to do this, you have to use several functions, right? First, right, you have to use list dir. That will give the first level. And whenever you find a directory, os dot is dir. Then you have to ch into that chdir. Then again list directory, right? Print them. If it is a directory, get into them, and so on, right? So you have to either you can use loops or you can use recursion, right? And I want this solution. I can give any random path and the code should just work. Code should just work fine. Okay. Okay. The next module that we would be learning is sys module. Sys module, right? Sys module again, it kind of have quite a lot of functions, but most frequently used one are only two, which is argv and exit. So we'll be looking at only these two functions from the sys module, and you can also look at a path variable to see the installation path of your Python, right? Okay, right. Argv. So this function helps us, right, to take command line arguments. This helps us to take the command line arguments. What is a command line argument? How do you execute a Python file? How do you execute a Python file in general? Guys, how do you execute a file? A Python file. How do you execute a Python file?
With the .py
Why?
extensions.
Sorry? Will you just try this in on command line? Python space. This is how you execute a Python file. First you type Python, then you give the module name. Yes or no? So you go to the terminal. See, with this, you can use just this run statement. Okay, run this OS module. But on the terminal, terminal is also called as command line. Terminal is also called as command line. Okay, so here, one moment, give it a second. It is still executing. Okay. Python built-in modules dot os module dot py. It is going to execute that file. It is going to execute that file. Okay. Now this is how we execute. This is how we execute anything from the terminal. Any Python module from a terminal, you say Python space by the module name, followed by the module name. It is going to execute that given module. It is going to execute that given module. Are we clear with this?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
while executing, I can take input parameters. While executing, I can take set of input parameters. Whereas, let me create one more module. I'm just going to call it as sys module. Right. So in order to use this built-in module, what is the first thing that we should do? Import sys. We can bring that sys module into the scope of this file and then print. Let me just say sys dot path. Sys.path. So this will basically give the Python installation path. So let me just try executing this from the terminal itself. os dot sys module, right? Sys module. These are all the Python paths. These are all the Python specific installation paths. The lib, the Python 3.310, right? Python DLLs, V virtual and site packages. It is basically listing all the Python paths, all the Python paths. Okay, sys.path. Right, we don't be using this also much frequently, but this is one of the function. Right now, another important thing is that which I want to bring it to your notice is the command line arguments. The command line arguments. Right, when you are executing a particular file from a command line, right, you can pass the parameters along with the file. Right, so now I'm passing 4 parameters: param, param1, param2 and param3. Right, now if I execute, yes, it is not giving anything, but if I want to take my command line arguments, I can say sys.arg v variable, which will give the command line parameters. It is a list of command line parameters. It is a list which gives the command line parameters. Let us execute this again. This is the command line parameters that we just gave. I'm just going to comment this out and re-execute this. Right, this where when the argv, the first, which is the 0th index, is nothing but the current module, the module name itself. Starting from the first index to any number of parameters, you can capture them in the argv variable. You can get them via the argv variable. Argv variable gives the command line, gives us access to the command line arguments. In that, it is going to return a list of the command line arguments. In that, the first, which is the 0th index, is the file name itself, is the module name itself. So you can always ignore that. It is not a parameter. But anything after the 0th index is a parameter, is a argument. Runtime command line arguments is called these. Now, from the command line, I'm passing 4 or 5 arguments here. So now I'm just passing 3 arguments, right? And in the argv, I can get all those 3 parameters, all those 3 parameters. If you want to get the command line parameters, which is the function that you have to use, which is the variable that you have to use, argv, which exists in the module, sys, which exists in the module sys. Are we clear?
It's clear, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So since it is going to be a list, right, I'm going to take command line args is equal to sys dot argv, right? In that, my arguments are only from, right? So starting from first index till the end, right? I'm going to print. I am using a slicing here. Command line, passed command line arguments are this, and the first index we know it is basically in the module name itself. So we were ignoring that and taking the remaining, right? So let me just execute this again. Right, one moment, what happened? Okay, I have to execute it through the terminal, right? Sorry, I forgot. Right. I'm going to execute this again. Now, if you see, this is the first argv which gave, and then that the 0th index is not something that of our interest. So apart from that, I ignored that using the slicing and taking anything else. So these are all the input arguments. This is how you can take the command line arguments using the sys module and argv variable. Argv variable. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Clear.
Now, right. Yes, print. Right. So if I execute this, this is going to give the execute the complete statement and give the all the output that is there. But I want to stop the execution of the file. I want to stop the execution of the file. Now, if there are two ways to stop the execution. One, you throw an error. The moment it sees an error, program crashes. It stops. Program crashes. Now, there are certain cases where we deliberately, even though there is no error, we purposefully want to stop the execution of a program. We purposefully want to stop the execution of a program. So how can we do that? So sys module has a function called exit. So I'm going to say sys dot exit, sys dot exit. The moment I say this, it is going to stop the execution. So which means if it stops here, will we get 111 and equal to print statements? Right, it does stop, which means I have to execute it from here. One moment, which means, right, you will not see this output anymore, which means you will not see the output after the sys.exit. The moment it hits the sys.exit, which means it is going to stop the execution of the program. It is going to stop the execution of the program. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Clear.
Yes, sir.
Right. Now, using this module, you are going to take the path on which you are going to print the files and folder names, on which using which you are going to print the files and folder names. So you are going to use both sys module as well as the OS modules, your conditions, your loops, or a recursion concept to get that output that I had already shared. Okay, is it clear?
Is clear, sir.
Clear.
Okay, right. Now there is another module, built-in module, which is called math module, math module. Did we see math module anytime earlier? I don't know. I might have explained. I'm not sure. Did we check Python module earlier? Sorry, math module. Okay, if not, fine. So we are going to look at math module. We are going to look at math module. So anything with respect to mathematics, right? So all of that will be there in this math module. All of that would be there in the math module. So what is so interesting about the math module? Right, all your cos theta, sin theta, any of this, like, that proper math related formulas, right? Functions, all of that you can basically get using the math module. For example, for us, like if I just want to get what is the factorial of a given number, right? There is a function called factorial. There is a function called factorial, right? If I want to know, for example, the square root of a particular number, sqrt, right? There is a function called sqrt, which is basically gives the square root of any given number, which gives the square root of any given number. If I want to say get the, like, greatest common divisor, right? I have a function called gcd. I'll have to pass two numbers. It is going to give the gcd of that number. It is going to give the gcd of that number. If I want to get the ceiling of a particular number, right? I have something called ceil. If I have to get the floor of a particular number, I have the function called floor, right? And you have, like, all of this logarithms, the trigonometric functions, right? The tan, cos, sine, all of these functions, right? Everything is there in this math module. Right? I'm going to just go back to the code here and going to write the math module. Python file math module dot py. Right? The first thing is import math. Print math dot factorial of 5, which is going to be 120, which is going to be 120, right? Math dot square root of 16, right? It is going to be 4, right? If you want to know math dot gcd, right, which is the greatest common divisor, I don't know, I'm just giving, I don't know what will be the value, right? Right, so you can get the values. What is the pi value? All the constants also you will get pi 3.143, right? 3.1415, whatever that number is, right? You can get the pi value, right? There you can get the e value also. Generally we take some e as a constant value, right? In mathematics, if you remember, print dot e value, right? So if you want to get a ceiling value of a given number, print math dot ceil, right? Math dot ceil 5, or else, for example, 5.1. What is the ceiling value of 5.1?
5, sir.
6, right? 5, 6. Thing is, right? What is the floor value of 5.9? Right? Sorry, floor value. Right? Floor value of 5.9 is 5. Ceiling of 5.1 is 6. So it is the next immediate number. Next number. Right? So you want to know what all the functions, what are the different functionality provided by this module, you can always say dir and you can pass the module math there. And we have already imported the math module. I'm just going to see pass that math module to dir function, which will list all the and folders. I'm just going to use this function. Okay, right. If you see here, signage, ceiling, combination, copy sign, cos theta, degrees, right? So all the mathematic related operations are here, right? All the math related operations are in the math module, right? So we have seen three modules today, which is the OS module, right? System module and math module. All right. Okay. So from tomorrow, we will learn how to deal with the database. We're using the Python as a language. So how to I write queries using the Python and so on. All right. So I want you guys to install Postgres. I'm going to send a few documents on how to install Postgres and keep that Postgres installation done by tomorrow class. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
All right. Then that's it for today. I'll see you guys tomorrow.